Yes, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com for another daily drop. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones, and as you can tell, he's still in the Smith Center following Carolina's big win over Tennessee on Wednesday night. As we're recording this one on Wednesday night, AJ was like, maybe we should, sneak a quick little drop in for later this week ahead of the Florida State game, and we're going to do that right now. So, AJ, the focus of this drop essentially is why this weekend against Florida State, first game in ACC play, is a big test for this Carolina team. And I know some people hearing that will be like, well, they just beat Tennessee. They've already beaten Arkansas. They've already, had some good performances this year. Why would a 4-2 Florida State team that just lost to Georgia, why would that be considered a big test? But I want you to go back a little bit before we look forward, because I know the way Carolina responded in practice and against Tennessee from the disappointment of not coming home with the championship in the Bahamas was, I think, a really positive thing to see. So before we go into why this weekend's so important for this North Carolina team, let's go back to earlier this week in practice and what that vibe's been like.
Well, it connects, and it's part of why we're talking about this in this drop here. What the heck's going on there? Can you hear that?
Kind of, but not really. It's fading away now.
Okay. I don't know what that.
A lot of stuff going on in the Smith Center, guys. Trust me.
Yeah, absolutely. So when they came back from Bahamas, they came back Saturday. They had Sunday off. They practiced Monday and Tuesday. They had very intense practices, very physical practice, very intense practices. Hubert said he wanted them to get ready for the fight that Tennessee was going to bring. Mm-hmm. He said they absolutely had to get their mind, their body, everything ready for the kind of fight that Tennessee was going to give them. And so they were totally dialed in. They were on a mission. Armando was on a personal mission because he had a great week in the Bahamas. The team was on a mission because they need signature type wins. They need wins that are going to help. And now that, by the way, with Arkansas beating Duke, they have 2 wins that are going to be quad 1 wins at the end of the year. I don't see any way that I think Tennessee's really good. They're going to be a top 25 and Arkansas will be a top 50. So they're on a mission to accumulate these things. They're on a mission to get better. They're on a mission to prove some things, because there are a lot of guys in this team that either were on teams that struggled a year ago or part of this program a year ago that didn't live up to anything that is near the standard of this program. So there's a lot of want in that locker room. And I thought that's what we saw Wednesday night with against Tennessee. The challenge for FSU is how much of that want carries over.
Yeah.
How much of that mission was just for Wednesday? How much of that mission is also for Saturday? And then you got Tuesday against UConn, and then 10 days later against Kentucky, and then against Oklahoma, Charleston Southern, and then the ACC. And the thing about it is typically you would think Florida State would get their attention. It's been one of the better programs in the ACC the last 15 years. Leonard Hamilton's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's a heck of a coach. They're well-schooled defensively. They're usually long. And this is a much better Florida State team than he had a year ago. Last year, they had all kinds of issues. I'm not going to go into the depth about those issues, but they had a lot of issues, and they feel like they've cleaned out some of the stuff that caused their problems. Okay, they lost, I think it was at home to Georgia. Okay, they're going to come ready to play Saturday, and they're going to have enough quality players and a really good coach that if the Tar Heels aren't ready to go, it could be a problem.
Yeah.
So as this team adds games to their process, how will this game play out as far as that process goes? Mm-hmm. Tonight was a great win. Tonight being Wednesday night. It was a great win for them. They scored 100 points against Tennessee, which doesn't happen. The number 1 adjusted defensive team nationally in the country comes in here. Carolina puts 100 on them. They shoot 57% from the floor. Okay, so how do they then treat Florida State? It's great to get up and have a big win against Tennessee, but if you're truly a team that is building, that is pulling a little tsunami thing with their season, you must take care of business Saturday emphatically against Florida State. Decent team, but there's no reason that North Carolina, as it's picking up steam right now, doesn't take care of business. So that, to me, will be the thing that I watch for. Yeah, whoever scores how many points, that's great. The rebounding, that's all great. But to me, it's the approach. I saw Wednesday night with the Tennessee game, Carolina threw punches right out of the gate. Mm-hmm. Boom, boom, boom. To knock Tennessee back on its heels, no pun intended. And I think defensively, Tennessee never even really got right. Even when Carolina was missing shots, they were missing shots. in the second half. Carolina asserted itself in a way that it really didn't do last year. How does it approach the first few minutes of Florida State? What do they look like? We've seen in this school here in the last couple of months that coming off a really good performance and a win, Miami in football, and then the next week playing a team that is not at that level, didn't get the players all that jazzed up, Virginia the following week, in which the Tar Heels fell over a cliff and didn't recover. Now, obviously, these are two different animals. However, the point is this club needs to build momentum and maintain momentum. Mm-hmm. When they lost to Villanova last week, I said, look, that's not a bad loss. It's not a setback. Yeah, they could have won the game. And maybe down the road, they're going to really wish they had that on their resume. Or it just played out the way it had to play out. That's part of the process, right? Now they've got two really good wins. How they approach this thing, to me, is going to be the most important thing that I look for initially. Then once the game starts taking place and unfolding, obviously there are 1,000 other things to look for. But I want to know where they are up here together, and we're going to see that in the first few minutes against Florida State. And whatever that is, I think will affect the next 36, 37 minutes against Florida State.
No, I agree. It's a tricky spot, too, when you look at just the schedule that Carolina has. Because, again, coming off a hard-fought, really tough victory against Tennessee, a really good team like you've talked about. And then you've got Florida State on the weekend. And then, 3 days later?
3 days later.
4 days later, you got to go play UConn and MSG. So, again, it doesn't get any easier for this North Carolina team. And when you look at this stretch that's coming up, I know there is a big break in between that UConn and Kentucky game. There's a few weeks spaced out before Carolina's back in ACC play as well. So the importance, I know in the past we've seen some Carolina teams start off poorly in the ACC and go on to win, go on to win a national title. But I think for this team and for any team really, if you can start off the ACC 1-0, particularly playing a Florida State team at home that is very, very beatable, I think I completely agree with you. I think this weekend is a bigger test than some people might think. Not necessarily maybe opponent wise, but again, psyche and mindset of this team. Yeah.
Themselves. And you made a great point about UConn. See, that's the other part. Sandwiched in between Tennessee here, where everybody had their Carolina blue hard hats on tonight, or white ones since it was white out.
Yeah, white out.
And then UConn. I mean, these guys, when UConn right now is sitting on your schedule, you see all the Kansas students camping out.
Yeah.
For 3 days to see
that's
UConn.
Crazy in Allen Fieldhouse. Yeah, it's wild.
And UConn's really good. Some people think they're the best team in the country again. So, of course, human nature is that, boy, we got UConn. Let's start sneaking a peek at UConn and forget the fact that Florida State's going to roll in here with a Hall of Fame coach and some pretty good players and a guy who knows how to beat this team. They've won in this building before. And so I that's why, yes, Florida State's the opponent, but I think North Carolina could be the opponent Saturday as well. And that's the beautiful thing about covering a season and watching it unfold, is because you see things kind of add. It's a street sweeper going through the street. It just kind of picks crap up and adds as it goes along, right? Well, the street sweeper in Carolina basketball this week is going to pick up something from the Florida State game. What will it be? Whatever it is, it will be a notch in whatever this team ultimately becomes.
Yeah. And like I always say, I tend to say on these podcasts, we'll see what the heck happens on Saturday afternoon against Florida State. But no, I agree. It's a big test for the Tar Heels. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I think that's my first street sweeper reference in a podcast ever. And I vow to make it my last.
Hey, that's what happens when you record a drop at midnight. You know what I mean? You might throw some wild.
It is. It's 11:57.
11:57, man.
3 articles to write tonight, maybe a fourth one, so I can pull back and reintroduce myself to my wife and daughter tomorrow.
Hey, and AJ, that is a perfect segue for us to get the heck on out of here. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Another daily drop presented by TarHeelIllustrated.com. Again, keep it locked to TarHeelIllustrated.com for our coverage of Carolina football, basketball, and recruiting. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.